Hello, my name is Elmira Strange and I'm a psychologist, coach and a founder of Therapeutic Coaching Academy, where you can learn how to establish your successful online business as a coach or an online therapist, and where you can learn how to help and support others whilst making yourself more confident and happy in the process of it. So it's not only about your clients, it's also about you. In today's video, I would like to talk to you about another interesting topic on letting go. Letting go of our negative emotions, because usually that's what we are trying to let go of. Often we don't think about letting go of pleasant emotions. So when we are feeling joy and happiness and positivity, we usually run with that emotion. We don't try to challenge it, we don't try to question it, we don't try to stop it, we don't try to limit it, we don't do anything with it. We just run with it, we enjoy the feeling. But when we are having some negative emotion or some negative thinking, then we try to stop it, we try to challenge it, we try to question it. Where is it coming from? How can I stop it? I don't like it. And the problem is, every emotion is energetically charged substance that has its own lifespan. So it's a matter of time that the emotion will dissipate, it will get discharged, and it will be replaced by another emotion. Whether it's a joyful emotion or whether it's a negative emotion, like pessimism, sadness, frustration, anger, eventually it goes away. We all have different coping strategies of how we deal with those emotions. As I said, with the positive emotions, we don't battle it, we don't fight it, we just let it run its course. We enjoy that emotion, we enjoy the feeling that it brings us. But when we are having negative emotion, we do what we can do to escape it or to cope with it in the best possible for us way. And what is the best possible way for you can be very different from mine or from somebody else's. How do we learn coping strategies? We learn them from our childhood, from parents we are growing up with or our caregivers. We see how they cope and we learn certain strategies from them, whether they are escapism through eating some kind of junk food or drinking alcohol or just having sugary snacks or getting out for a walk or calling our friends and offloading what's in our mind. They're all coping strategies. There are some coping strategies that are beneficial to us, healthier ones, like getting out for a walk and like sharing with another person of what's on our mind, which is hopefully will bring us some clarity and some kind of escape from that negative emotion. And sometimes we indulge in certain foods and drinks that we know they are quite detrimental to our health, but at that moment they give us temporary feeling of escape, so we are able to cope with that emotion. How do people with depression coping with their emotional state that is almost constant from day to day? They might sleep for much longer hours, even though their sleep is not very restful and deep sleep. It's quite often a scattered and very light sleep, which is not really relaxing and it's not really helping. Other people use all kinds of substances which are addictive, but they help them to cope at that time. And some people go on antidepressants in the hope that they will help them to stop that cycle of being depressed. One of the books on letting go of negative emotions and negative thinking is written by David Hawkins, where he explains that every emotional state is connected to hundreds, if not thousands, of our thoughts that are banked during the previous years. So every time you feel a certain emotion, for example sadness, you will have certain thoughts that are connected to it. For example, you might think, well, I live in a climate which is so grey and rainy most of the year, and that makes you sad. Or your children misbehave most of the time and it makes you sad. Your partner doesn't appreciate you and that makes you sad. So you start having lots of thoughts that are related to every one of these situations, and they all will be alike in nature. And every time you will experience sadness, there will be new thoughts are forming and also stored in that bank. This is why sometimes it is not possible to address every one of your thoughts, like for example we are doing with cognitive behavioral therapy, where we challenge those thoughts, where we say, is it helpful? Does it benefit me? Is it supporting? And if not, you let it go or you reframe it. In this technique by David Hawkins, for example, you learn to ignore those thoughts because there are too many of them, they're endless and they attract more of the same, so there is no point to battle with every one of them. And instead, you learn to identify the emotion which is behind those thoughts. So as soon as you become aware of your negative thoughts, think to yourself, what is the emotion behind that thought? And it could be something specific, like anger, frustration, irritation, sadness, depression, or anything you come up with. You label it, it is your emotion. But that emotional state changes. So it is a temporary thing. The life of that emotional state will depend on various factors. For example, your previous experience with that emotion, how long did you stay with it during those previous years, especially if you had chronic depression for many years. So it might be more difficult for you to change that emotional state. Or for somebody, it could be a quick burst of anger or frustration. And that might be a very quick emotion that will come for certain minutes, less than an hour, and it will go away, even though it will take some of your energy. When you try to learn to focus on actual emotional states, knowing that it will change and it's just a matter of time, and usually it's so many minutes rather than hours, and you learn to let it run its course as you do with joyful emotions, then the chances are it will go away, it will dissipate, it will discharge much quicker than you think it will. So you can say to yourself, I am aware of my sadness. I am aware of my depressed mood. I don't like it, but there is not much I can do to it because I know it will run its course because it's got energy. As soon as it will go away, the emotional state will change and I will come out of it. With that acceptance and peaceful attitude towards your emotional state, you actually shorten the lifespan of the emotion itself. So you don't challenge it, you don't question it. You don't get into conflict with it. You just let it run its course. Very similar thing I teach through acceptance and commitment therapy, where we learn to accept the emotional state as something that comes and goes. And the same with thoughts. But with the thoughts, it's a little bit different because there are way too many of them. And it can be exhausting to try to challenge every one of them. And this is why learning how to be more mindful and accepting of your emotional state, whatever it is, can be much more helpful than using CBT techniques such as challenging thoughts. But of course, there are situations where CBT is most helpful in challenging and reframing our thoughts, in looking into our beliefs, core beliefs and limiting beliefs, and replacing them with something that will serve us much better. What also you need to know that we repress and suppress feelings. And repression happens usually on the subconscious level. It's something that happens, for example, if we get into an accident and we can't remember half of it because those memories were repressed by our mind. Why? In order to save us in some way or another, in order to minimize our suffering. Our mind is always trying to protect us, and this is why it can repress memories that you are not even aware of. Whatever happened in your childhood or your teenage years, some of it will get forgotten. How do you get repressed memories out on the surface? You can do it through hypnotherapy, for example. Should you do it? Not necessary. Some people believe that getting repressed memories out on the surface will help us to deal with it, and that in order will help us to heal certain ailments, certain psychosomatic illnesses that happen as a result of repressed or suppressed emotions. But I also think that when the mind is trying to repress certain memories, it's doing it for a reason, and maybe we should let the nature do what it needs to be done. With suppression, it happens on a very conscious level. It's when we suppress our emotions, feelings, when we don't want to address them at that time. For example, somebody was rude to you, somebody said to you something unpleasant. It is on your mind, but you consciously decided not to think about it anymore. So you suppress it. You decide not to think about it. But the problem is, if it has charged energy, that emotional energy that won't let you make peace with what's been said, then that repressed or suppressed memory will have that energy that will look for escape. The more energy from suppressed and repressed emotions is in you, the more it will try to seek the escape out of your system. And how it happens? It happens through displacement. Displacement is a term in psychology that we use, that for example, if you come home and then suddenly you feel irritated towards your pet or towards your children or towards your partner, then you shout at them. And the shouting is pretty strong. And maybe even your partner say to you, there was no need for that. Why are you so angry? The reason is really tiny at home, that somebody didn't listen to you or somebody interrupted you and you exploded like a volcano. What's wrong with you? But the reason for that is your suppressed emotions that you were suppressing during the day. That's the problem with those emotions. They're always trying to find an escape. So what can we do to discharge the energy from those suppressed emotions? We do it through multiple ways. One of them, escapism, which, as I said earlier, using different substances, including food and drinks, to make you feel better. Do they address the cause? No, not really. Do they help you to get over it? To some degree. If you call a friend or if you talk to your partner about what happened at work and you let some steam out, that's partly you discharge that energy. The best way of dealing with that energy that is in you is to actually going through kind of meditation or mindfulness technique. Maybe you are not so much into meditation. I find them difficult because my mind is always racing and my mind is always trying to think different things and analyzing and over-analyzing. So mindfulness may be a very good alternative to meditation, where you focus on your surroundings, you focus on the noise around you, you focus on the sensations, you focus on the breathing. That we can do at any moment. We don't have to sit and meditate for half an hour. We can focus on the breathing at any time. And as one of my friends said to me many years ago, when you focus on the breath, everything else will follow. And I remembered that phrase, which actually came from his therapist, because it is very factual. When you focus on your breath at any moment, and that's we teach in the acceptance and commitment therapy too. When you focus on your breathing, even 3-4 breaths you take in and out and in and out, that can help you to be more mindful about your surroundings and your emotional state. At some point in the evening, you might feel that repressed or suppressed emotion is coming up. You might start seeing the picture of that person who was rude to you earlier on, and feeling some kind of irritation or anger towards that person. That means that emotion is trying to make you aware that it's there, it's trying to actually get out. This is when you can either focus on the energy of it and breathe into the emotion itself. Focus on it, knowing that it will go away. Or you have other options. For example, you feel strongly that you should tell something to that person who was rude to you, as in our example, because you want to establish your own healthy boundaries when you're talking to people, because you feel it's rude what they say to you, because perhaps you want some apology or something. In that case, focusing on that emotional state and hoping it will discharge itself might not work. And in this case, what you need to do, you actually need to confront that person, not in an angry way, but in a more respectful, adult, mature way, explaining yourself that what they say to you affected you, and then you explain in what way it affected you. And if the emotion is easier to deal with, then you can talk to another person about that and discharge that emotion or the energy of that emotion through talking, through sharing it with somebody else. If you don't have the opportunity to talk to somebody about it, then use this method, which is also helpful. Imagine that person is sitting next to you. Put a chair opposite you. Imagine they're there. Talk to them. Tell them what you feel. Talk out loud and explain yourself. And you will see that it actually will help you to discharge that energy too. And so is writing. If you are into writing, then you can write a letter to that person, explaining your feelings and explaining how it affects you and how you feel. And that also will help to discharge the energy and help you to let go of that negative emotion. Well, I hope you found this video useful and interesting as always. And if you do, please like it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.